This is the legendary Blancpain 50 Fathoms. Now some say it's the most legendary diver ever made, and while that's an argument that I won't get into, that debate can live in the comments down below, I will say that the horological significance of this watch can't be understated. Yes, it is a legendary dive watch. Considered by many to be the world's first modern dive watch, the 50 Fathoms debuted back in 1953 at the Basel Watch Fair, and it's been on the wrist of professional and recreational divers and enthusiasts ever since. Now, being a diver, this watch features some typical dive watch specs, including 300 meters of water resistance, a screw-down crown, and the elapsed time dive bezel. And while, of course, most divers these days use dive computers, many divers could probably rely on a watch like the 50 Fathoms as a backup to their dive computers thanks to its durability and its dependability. Now, before we dive into the features and the specs of this watch, let me give a quick shout out and thanks to my channel sponsor and partner, Exquisite Timepieces. They loaned me this watch for the video, and of course without them, bringing videos like this to you just wouldn't be possible. Now, if you don't know Exquisite Timepieces, it's a local brick-and-mortar watch dealer located here in Naples, Florida, and they're an authorized dealer of dozens of watch brands, including brands like Blancpain, Omega, Seiko, and Grand Seiko, Tudor, and many, many more. So if you're interested in this watch or any new watch, check their website or give them a call. All the guys over there, including Joe, Tyler, Nick, and the entire gang, will definitely take care of you. Now, let's jump into the watch. So in terms of specs, this watch has a titanium constructed watch case that comes in at 42.5 millimeters in case diameter. It's about 14 millimeters thick, and it's just a hair over 21 millimeters between the lugs. This watch measures in at just over 47 millimeters in length from lug tip to lug tip as well, making it a very wearable timepiece despite its slightly larger than average case diameter. Now that titanium watch case is topped off with a sapphire capped elapsed time bezel, and it's a bezel with a lume filled graduated bezel insert. And speaking of that lume, the dial is also generously filled with the same green superluminova lume, making it an easy-to-read display in any lighting conditions. Now, the watch rides on a pin buckle NATO strap, but it's also available on several other strap and bracelet options. So if this one isn't for you, if you want something a little more durable or more to your stylistic tastes, there's plenty of options for you. That said, while NATO straps aren't exactly hard to come by or anything super special, this one is a very high quality strap for whatever that's worth. Now, speaking of that strap, I have to say that on the wrist, the watch wears great. It's quite comfortable thanks to the combination of that strap and the lightweight nature of the titanium constructed case. So if you want a full-sized sports watch, but you also want to keep the weight down, something like a 50 Fathoms in titanium is definitely one way to achieve that goal. Now, while the watch and its features and specs are quite impressive, something that you have to touch on when it comes to the 50 Fathoms is the design. The case design is what I might describe as a kettle-shaped case, and the dial and the handsets, which feature beautiful, high-polished appointments, are all design characteristics that harken back to generations when the 50 Fathoms was first designed. And I have to say that brands like Blancpain and maybe another brand like Blvd comes to mind as brands that lean very heavily into their brand history when it comes to design. And while these watches might not look like cutting-edge modern sports watches, I think that these classic design cues are what give them their timeless charm, and I'm glad that they don't try to update them with new stylizations over and over in an attempt to keep up with fleeting fashion trends. Now, another important thing to touch on, and something that Blancpain does update in order to keep up with the cutting edge and keep up with the times, is their movements. And the movement in this watch is something else. The caliber 1315 you find in this watch is a 4 Hz frequency automatic self-winding movement with 35 joules and 227 components. And while that's all well and good, the real statement piece of this movement is the power reserve, boasting 120 hours. Yeah, that's a 5-day power reserve. And in a day and age when a lot of watches are still running on 40 hours, and maybe some newer upgraded watches are pushing 80 hours, a watch like this with 120 hours is pretty impressive. Now, pair that with the nice decoration on the movement and its components, things like polished and chamfered edges and the self-winding rotor embellishments, as seen through the case display back, and you have a really top-of-the-line luxury timepiece on your wrist. Alright guys, well that will wrap this one up for today. Let me say thanks again to Exquisite Timepieces for lending me this watch for the video, and let me say thanks to you guys for tuning in and watching. I greatly appreciate it as always. Now with that said, let me say thanks again, and until the next one, bye now.